Hello, good evening, everyone. So the board met in closed executive session where we called our meeting to order so we can begin our meeting. Before we do, I just wanted to do a quick correction, so I'll just turn it over to Mr. Casey to do.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Wanted to make note that in the agenda, it indicates that the meeting was noticed on January 10th and March 4th of 2022 in the Home News Tribune and the Times. That is a typo. It should be February 4th, not March 4th.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kachesi. Okay, so we're going to go to the next item, and I'll turn this over to Dr. Russo, oath of office.
Okay, at this time, we would, if you could take the oath of office for the appointment of Shweta Shetty.
Okay. I, Shweta Shetty, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and this state under the authority of the people. So help me God. I, Shweta Shetty, do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law for the office of member of a Board of Education, and that I am not disqualified as a voter pursuant to RS 19-4-1, nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense listed in NJS 18A 12-1, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of that office according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Shweta.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're now going to turn to the next item on our agenda. So for presentations and reports, I did want to just really quickly have a couple of comments. First, just wanted to acknowledge and applaud the passing of legislation last month in New Jersey to ensure that Asian American and Pacific Islander inclusive curriculum is taught in New Jersey schools. I did want to just acknowledge that. I know we're very happy to say that we've already been doing that through our equity goals, but I did want to just acknowledge that piece of legislation. And also just to say happy Black History Month. I know that we have a number of great events coming up in the district in celebration, so just wanted to acknowledge that as well. Dr. Idaho, turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Just a couple quick comments regarding health and safety. As many of you are aware, just yesterday, Governor Murphy in a press conference indicated, or specifically stated, I should say, that as of March 7th, the state's his executive order 253 on mask mandate will be eliminated effective March 7th. He then leaves it to each individual school district to make a determination whether or not they want to extend masking. There is a lot of questions regarding the elimination of the executive order and what that means to other current guidance by the New Jersey Department of Health and the New Jersey Department of Education with respect to social distancing and quarantine rules. And quite frankly, until we can get further guidance, it's very difficult to state that any decision by the district until we have proper guidance from the other state agencies about how this will impact it. For instance, currently, if you have COVID and you're quarantined for 5 days, on days 6 through 10, you must wear a mask when you return. That's a Department of Health requirement. It's a CDC requirement. With the mask mandate going away, what does that mean? Right? So, they need to just simply put some clarification. Now, it would make sense that you would have to still mask, but let's see what they put in writing. So we need clarification out there just so there's clear guidance for all school districts on that. And there's a saying that 2 minutes is a long time in a basketball game. Well, 30 days is a long time in COVID. And I'll remind everyone that when we had Halloween or Diwali, Omicron didn't exist, right? But when we hit Thanksgiving, we were in a massive Omicron outbreak. So we're going to take our time. We're going to be patient. We're going to look at the health data. We're going to wait for updated guidance. We're going to confer with our local health officials. We're going to work with our school doctor. We're going to look at our vaccination rates. and we're going to make an informed decision, as we've been methodically doing throughout the entire pandemic, to try to keep our school community, our school families, our staff safe, our students safe. With that, we will continue with our booster clinics. We would encourage families to consider getting their children and our staff to consider getting boosters. Again, tomorrow in this room, at the multipurpose room, West Windsor Health Department will be here yet again. We had over 197 vaccinated with boosters a week ago. 3 weeks ago, we had over 600 vaccinated at North with Penn Medicine. We will also then have a follow-up clinic on the 23rd in this space. That will be 3 weeks for anyone that went last week, as well as another opportunity for anyone that needs to be boosted. And then with respect to testing, Miramus has been our state assigned testing coordinator, and candidly, it's not gone as smooth as we would like, to the point where we've had numerous follow-up conversations with Miramus, and there will be a change as of this week. We will not be sending home weekly test kits after 2 weeks of just, lots of challenges and difficulty. We will have on-site testing starting on Saturdays, effective Saturday the 12th, between 9 and 12 at High School North. So anyone can register in advance. If you're previously registered, you can attend. If you need to do on-site registration, you may attend. 9 to 12, main entrance of High School North, every Saturday going forward. We may have to make a tweak here and there with ACTs or whatnot, but we will, again, be on-site testing. So families will not bring their test kits in home anymore. We won't be sending them home. If you want to have your children tested, or if our staff wants to be tested, Saturday mornings, High School North, 9 to 12. And that's the end of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adderholm. Okay, I'll now turn over to our student representative reports and start with High School North.
Good evening, everybody. So I just wanted to start with some of the club updates for High School North. So High School North's National Honor Society recently held 2 after-school study halls on Monday, January 24th and Wednesday, January 26th, from 3 to 4 p.m. for students interested in collaborating and studying with 8th NHS seniors at Market Disney comes to a close. High School North's Community Problem Solving Team held an econ fair on January 31st. So this allows students to expand their knowledge on topics such as the stock market, personal finance, and more topics. High School North's Med Forum recently held their first restaurant fundraiser of the year at On the Border. So thank you so much to everyone who attended and helped make this fundraiser a success. High School North's class of 2023 is hosting a pickleball tournament on February 25th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. in the main gym. And this competition is open to all grade levels with 3 members per team. And signups for this event will be held during lunch from February 7th to 11th, so this week. I wanted to offer High School North's boys swim team a huge congratulations for placing second in the team competition at the Mercer County Swimming Championships held at North on Monday night. And lastly, congratulations to WWP's United Cheerleaders for taking a first place win over the January 22nd to 23rd weekend for the St. Hubert's cheerleading competition in Philadelphia. Thank you so much, and I'll turn this over to Allison.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Allison, and I'm one of the reps from High School North. So going off of what Eddie said, it is finally February, and that means a few things for North. So first of all, it is Black History Month, and in recognition of Black History Month, High School North will be hosting virtual conversations, presentations, and exhibits that explore the achievements of African American individuals in the context of both the WWP community as well as this country's history. The other thing that February brings is Valentine's Day, and the Senior Class Council will be hosting their traditional annual rose sale this week during our lunches, and these roses will be sent to friends and teachers on the 14th, either anonymously or signed. As for the big e-board event of the year, the Tonight Show, which will be hosted on April 9th, the junior hosts have been decided, and they are Chris Boev and Sarvesh Pradhan. So congrats to them, and we're really excited to start working with them. And then I also want to say congratulations to the staff and students for making it to second sem, and a special congratulations to our seniors. So that's all for North. Unfortunately, Ansh wasn't able to make it in today, so I will be going over South's reports as well. So real quick, in the past month or so, Student Council has been focused on preparing for their next events, which is a dodgeball and movie night event. And Ansh had wrote that they'd been developing this idea for a while, and they're starting to plan it, and it'll be either mid-Feb or mid-March. Bake sales have been ongoing, so Student Council has been bringing in some funds through this, and class councils are planning fundraisers as well, although progress has slowed over the past few weeks. And lastly, they had a virtual town hall meeting where anyone from the student body could ask admin about any questions. And one of the things that he'd mentioned was senior prom, and it was reiterated to the class that only South seniors could come to South senior prom. And the school is also planning on expanding senior privileges, but details are still being ironed out. And that finishes off the report. So thank you very much for your time, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Eddie and Allison. Appreciate it. Okay, we're now going to go to the next item, which is Start Strong test results presentation by Dr. Nathan.
Good evening. I have the pleasure and the responsibility of sharing our district's Start Strong results. As I've shared in the past, context is key when looking at data, so that is where I will begin. It's important to note what is highlighted. The information provided by this assessment is a snapshot of students' understanding and should only be used with other supporting evidence when drawing conclusions about a student's overall academic performance. Here you can see in the boxes, the tests were administered quickly and were mandated by the U.S. Department of Education. On this slide is information about test design. The state is giving its own disclaimer. These tests do not cover the breadth and depth of standards as seen on the NJSLA and do not support the same comparisons or inferences about student proficiency. Also noted on this side is the type of questions. Only efficient question types were utilized. Comparison on the table on the right. Finally, for overall context, some statewide and WP information. So statewide, the median student score of level 1, or students achieving the lowest score range statewide, was 44% in both math and language arts. For WWP, our median student score of level 1 was 16% in both math and language arts. Statewide, about half of all New Jersey students in grades 4 through 6 began this school year in need of strong support. In WWP, a quarter of students in grades 4 through 6 began this year in need of strong support in math. 57% of WWP students in grades 4 through 6 began this year with the highest level score in math. And 64% of all WWP students in grades 4 through 6 began this year with the highest level score in English language arts. Now to take a deeper look. In 9th and 10th grade, 80 to 81% of students are scoring in the highest category, while 20% in grade 4 seems to be our highest need category. There is something important to think about, as that context is key. Grade 4 students have the least amount of experience taking a standardized test. The NJDOE indicated that statewide, approximately 1/3 of high school freshmen are expected to need substantial help in English and language arts. For our WWP 9th graders, 90% scored in the proficiency ranges, and only 10% of our freshmen need substantial support based on this assessment. Here is a graphic representation of the levels achieved for WWP across 4th through 10th grade in English language arts. Here are our math results. For additional context, approximately 30,000 New Jersey students in grade 8 participated in the Algebra 1 assessment. Thus, Math 8 outcomes are not representative of grade 8 performance as a whole. About half of New Jersey students in grades 4 through 6 began this school year in need of strong support to catch up in math. The NJDOE indicated that statewide, start strong, 60% of students enrolled in Algebra 1 may have fallen behind. For WWP, 30% of our students were in the strong support level. Here's a graphic representation of math support levels from the assessment. And here are our science results. The majority of our WWP students scored 80% or higher in the category for science. 84% for grade 6, 89% for grade 9, and 81% for grade 12. The following slides contain achievement levels by subgroup and demographic information. Here, ELA by subgroup, English Language Arts, highlights our work in equity and the strategic goals we continue to work on. This data is not new information to us, and there is no one intervention. We utilize a systemic approach for making progress. Supporting all of our students continues, utilizing this data point and several others. A standardized assessment with so many disclaimers can produce data that seems to exaggerate further gaps within demographic groups. As mentioned while viewing the last slide, we take this into context and continue our strategic goal work. So looking at our subgroups and demographic breakdown in math. Here we can view our subgroups in math. State summative assessment results cannot be interpreted this year without a better understanding of the circumstances and opportunities facing students. Some students had never tested before, limited number of students in certain groups like grade 8 and our English language learners. So we ask questions knowing these circumstances. Did a group of students get a question wrong because they did not know a concept tested, were not taught concepts as part of planned instruction, or were having a bad day, as the number of questions in any one concept were quite limited. And as previously stated, this is another piece of information to support planning and intervention with goal teams. Our last section tonight is subgroup and demographic information for science. Here you can see our science results within our subgroups. And our demographic results. So moving to notable achievements and strategies, what we were able to do to support our students throughout the last school year into the start of this school year and continue this work. It's important to note the hard work and programs that were put into place, and these bullets just illustrate some of them. Offering high quality instruction during the pandemic, both virtually and in person. Social emotional learning focus with tours for students to acclimate back to school. Providing adult ESL classes, English as a second language, for caregivers, parents of students currently enrolled in our ESL programming. summer camps, including literacy and for our English language learners, and food distribution for each family that needed it. And finally, a few ways on how we intervene. Assessments, and keep in mind, assessments are a different language within themselves. Ultimately, subgroups we imagined might struggle on this assessment did. We are continuing with our equity work and finding many ways to support our students, as seen here on this slide. State summative assessments do not provide information necessary for policymakers to understand students' learning context. Indicators such as whether students have access to devices and broadband, the type and amount of instruction available, and the level at which students were engaged are essential for shining a light on inequitable opportunities and directing additional resources where they are urgently needed. Our district does this work through our strategic goals and through these intervention strategies to ensure we are able to reach each and every learner. Thank you for your time and attention throughout this presentation, and a huge thank you to all our educators who worked hard every day to support all of our students and use data stories, many data points, when making decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nathan. Are there any questions from board members? Yes.
Dr. Nathan, I understand, the point about how this testing was done differently, and we can't really compare it to other test results that we have from other years. Is there something coming that we will be able to compare against other years to be able to really put a handle on what the results of all the pandemic has been on where our students are at now versus in a normal year?
From a standardized testing perspective, there is going to be NJSLA again. I think it will take a few years in order to really be able to truly use those standardized results. However, in district, we, throughout the pandemic and prior to the pandemic, we used lots of measures in order to gauge our students' levels of mastery, where they're strong and where they need to continue to learn and grow. So things like our Fontes and Pinnell, those are reading level indicators, our MAP, NWEA MAP growth. We have an iReady component now within our middle schools, another way to assess Lexile levels and set goals and help our students continue to grow. Assessments formally and formatively that are used within classrooms to continuously make instructional decisions are used on a continuous basis. So we are able to gauge where we are strong and where we as a department, as a district, and as an individual student need to set goals and grow. That's ongoing.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Nathan.
Thank you.
Just to follow one thing with Pam, and I appreciate Dr. Nathan's presentation. I think it's important to know that the only reason we have Start Strong is on that first slide that Dr. Nathan shared, bullet 3, right? That there's a U.S. Department of Education requirement to have a statewide assessment, and the state got a waiver in the spring in order to postpone it. When they got the waiver, they had to then come up with an assessment. They scrambled to create an assessment that they, by their own then guidance on slide 2, then that's that last bullet, that doesn't meet the breadth of the standards, does not support the same comparisons or inferences about student proficiency. And this is so that they can be in a federal compliance, period. It actually means nothing. We will not use this data for anything with regarding placement, regarding students' opportunity to be in like an H&A mathematics program. The reality, it is a data point, and we have to be cognizant of it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't fairly depict, it's not a fair assessment to our kids. It truly isn't. Now, our C&I team has done yeoman's work to build in other district-wide assessment measures that are able to be followed year to year. Because, again, to Dr. Nathan's point, yes, NJSLA comes back this year, but what's it being compared to? It didn't happen last year, and it didn't happen the year before. So we're going to take a 8th grader and compare them to where they were in fifth grade with 3 years of a pandemic, right? That's not going to really correspond well to tell us anything about anything. It's just the state needs a couple years of data, again, to Dr. Nathan's point, in order for their state data to truly give us any kind of predictive validity, and then you want to triangulate with other data points, which our CNI team and our teachers have been doing a great job with building, and the board has supported tools and assessments in order to help create that. So as a district, we have a more of, I would like to believe, a holistic picture. And when the state asked for data submissions last year in the spring, Dr. Nathan and her team were able to provide it, right? They were able to provide comprehensive data. The problem with the state is they let 600 districts do it differently. That's not our fault. We had data stories to share. And that's because of the work our teachers have done throughout the pandemic. There are students receiving targeted intervention programs right now as a result of the work our supervisors have done, the work our classroom teachers have done, the work our special education department has done, and the work our leadership of the district has done under Dr. Nathan's leadership. So again, it's concerning, and we should all pause and say, let's take a look, and let's pause and let's reflect. But it's an incomplete story, and it's not fair to districts across New Jersey. And quite frankly, if you watch the politics on this is going to be weaponized against school districts all over New Jersey, and you're already going to start seeing it with a call for new changes in funding formula, and you're already going to see it in what the state board did last week, which was absolutely horrific in the way they set cut scores for our seniors with a brand new graduation requirement called the NJGPA, which is a new graduation assessment for this year's juniors that's going to affect with a 750 cut score. And that 750 cut score is higher than the current SAT cut score to show grade level mastery. So when you start looking at that and you start looking at design of the GEPA, it's a joke. They just took independent test items from other test banks and created an assessment. So they spent no time on it. They haven't normed it, and they haven't actually piloted it. So we don't know anything, but yet our current juniors are going to be held to that standard, and their graduation's on the line, and you cannot opt out of it as per the state. So this assessment industry is pushing a story, and there's certain members of the legislature that are pushing an assessment story to tell about the success of districts, and quite frankly, the success of students, that is completely unfair to the children and the educators of this state. So we have to be mindful as a board, this is a bigger deal than just a mandated, formatted report that they told us we had to do with these data points. There's a round filing system on your way out that you can put it in, because that's what the value of it is.
Thank you, Dr. Adderholm. All right, we're going to now go to the first opportunity for public comments. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes. Do we have any comments? Okay. Hearing none, we'll close the public comment portion. So I'll now turn to our Board of Ed committee reports, and we have one for Administration and Facilities Committee. Dana?
Okay, good evening. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. The Administration and Facilities Committee met on Tuesday, February 1st. We reviewed the 2023-2024 academic calendar for a final time after it has been reviewed several times by many different stakeholder groups. This calendar is on the board agenda tonight for a full board vote. Next, we had an update on athletics. A limited number of students will attend and celebrate senior nights for the varsity girls and boys basketball teams tonight, February 8th, at High School North. Does anyone know the outcome of the game? The Mercer County tournaments for wrestling, boys and girls basketball will be held the weeks of February 6th and 13th of this year. High school spring sports registration is underway in the Genesis Parent Portal through February 22nd. Registration for middle school athletics is open February 1st through March 7th. Then next, Dr. McDonald provided a photographic tour of the construction progress at High School South and Community Middle School. Highlights included renovations to the Media Center, Playhouse and Theater at High School South, and the theater at CMS, and the new science classrooms at both schools. The district-wide celebration of Black History Month begins February 2nd with various events, activities, and speakers to honor the achievements, contributions, and culture of African Americans. Dr. McDonald shared and highlighted a district calendar of events and some classroom activities. The committee will next meet on March 1st.
Thank you, Dana. Any questions from board members? Okay, that was the only committee that met since our last board meeting, so we'll now turn to the voting portion of our meeting. So I'll turn to administration items 1 to 5. Can I get a motion for these items? Dana and Robin.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Bonzo.
Yes.
Ms. Chinera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Crute.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes. We have no curriculum items this evening, so I'll now turn to finance. Can I get a motion for finance items 1 through 15? Louisa and Graylin. Chris?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Chinera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes. Okay, now we'll go to the next item, which is the discussion of the 2022-2023 budget. Dr. Adderley?
Good evening, everyone. Just for members of the Board of Education that cannot see this, primarily a picture tour of the construction. So those in the front row might want to relocate if you want to see it or turn around. But to members of the public, this evening's presentation is the introduction presentation to the budget. And why we are awaiting the state to have a meeting supposed to be scheduled on February 22nd, which would be the governor's budget address. We are being told it could be moving as late as March 8th, but it's yet to be officially announced, which will have an impact to our budget finalization because it impacts our state aid allotment. So tonight I'm going to start a little more big picture holistically. Just again, we always start with a framing of our mission statement. And again, as we build upon our tradition of excellence, the mission of WWP is to empower all learners to thoughtfully contribute to a diverse and changing world with confidence, strength of character, and love of learning. And we talk about our strategic goals, and the district has 4, but we believe that each of our students has this intrinsic worth that we embrace in the diversity, enriches and empowers our community, and that people reach their full potential when we encourage them to believe what is possible. And therefore, we build on our tradition of excellence, which is loved in our strategic plan. Will guide and support our students' growth, empowering them to value their individual learning journey. So we really try to think of our budget as a reflection of our values. And our board has identified 4 goals, which we'll talk about in some future meetings. But from a budget timeline perspective, our budget process starts when our budget gets adopted for the next year, right? So, we have work throughout as we work with our auditors and our budget managers to conclude one year as we move into the next fiscal year. We are constantly working on our capital projects, our renovations, and we're constantly looking at our ESIP, which is our Energy Savings Improvement Program, and our referendum, looking at our facility work and staffing and hiring and building the master schedule and working on curriculum documents and professionally developing our staff and training. It's an ongoing cyclical process. And all of it gets reflected in this budget document. So it's a really important document because it reflects what we value and cherish as a district. So we go through this board. We had a board retreat on the budget back in December. We do a budget review where Dr. Russo and I had an opportunity to meet with our county superintendent and county business official. That was a very productive meeting a couple weeks ago. Through November and February, we're meeting with our budget managers and Derek Mead, our comptroller, and Lou Brotman and Dr. Russo and myself. And we're working with our budget managers to help pull together their budgetary needs, what reflects needs, for instance, like a curriculum revision or a textbook acquisition. Those meetings happen. We get into staffing ratios based on enrollment projections, but we do have to project out, right? Because we don't have the high school master schedule done at that point. And we have to be mindful of the scheduling and the student needs, but we know how many students we have approximately at a period of time. So we can project how many staff we might need. Then we wait for this governor's address, and that's late February. Usually it's the fourth week of February, the fourth Monday or Tuesday, and then the budget dollars get released the fourth Thursday. The last year or two, it's been delayed, partially due to COVID, right? And that makes good sense, into March. And now we're hearing again, it could be moving. We just are waiting for the official announcement. But that does impact the finalization of our numbers. And so we have to do a tentative budget by the current rules by March 21st. And that's every school district. That's a type 1 school district in New Jersey, and there's different budget types. And then we have to do, after that gets submitted to the county superintendent, they approve it or ask for some minor changes. And then we have to do an official budget hearing for the public, where the board takes an actual resolution vote on an advertised budget. And then we have an official budget, right? And that's the process. So for tonight, I want to just spend some time and just sort of walk you through some slides. And I'm going to move fast through these because if you've ever been through a referendum presentation with me, I can talk all night about this stuff. So it's about 80-something slides, so I'm going to go relatively quick. And I'm going to talk through some of the schools, but I'm not going to go into all the depth of all the nuances of all the different referendum. I do want to show you the progress. So Hawk was pre-referendum, but Hawk finished at the tail end of 2019, 2020. So I just want to give you a sense of what the community, it's a beautiful facility addition. And then Town Center, same thing. Outside of the referendum, but just a beautiful addition for the students and staff at Town Center. Community is our largest renovation, both in physical footprint growth as well as aggressive renovation on the inside. And if you think about it, you go gym, cafeteria, auditorium, music space, library. Through the core, the gut of that school is all being renovated or changed. So it's an incredible amount of work that's happened during active school year with students. Now, with a reduction in number of students last year, we were able to advance some things. Tremendous aggressive work over the summer, and then amazing partnership and coordination this school year. Tremendous credit to Kyle Schimpf, the principal, and the staff at CMS. Right. These are all actual pictures of the facility. So this is our new main entrance. That's with the snow last week. That's our new gymnasium. And you can see the facility. Right. Our new fitness room that opened right after winter break. That, looking at the library in the forefront, and then to the right, the science edition. That's the new entrance drive and your brand new library. Students are actively working and attending classes and research in this space. Again, just a beautiful facility. A real credit to our architect, our construction management team, and our contractors, and of course our administrators that are overseeing it. This is our refurbished auditorium. We were able to have our first concert in here. Supply chain being what it is, we don't have a curtain yet. We're missing some sound equipment, but we were able to seat our audience, put our students safely on the stage. So there are some lag items that we're just waiting for. This is happening on every project. but you just get a sense of how beautiful the space is. Again, the Science Wing addition, coming from a different angle as you enter into the facility. This is the inside of the Science Edition, and you can see the progress that they're making. This is middle school science. It's just beautiful spaces. Every science teacher will now have a dedicated science classroom. This is looking at the old library, and the old library will become the new music space. So you saw the new library, and you saw all the books were transitioned to the new. We're in the current renovating this inside. And the amazing thing, and this is the gutted library. You can see the fresh poured cement there just last week when Dr. McDonald and I took a tour. That roof is actually going to get cut and raised. There will be raising the roof. Right, there you go. Right, and that's because the acoustics and the sound. Right, they will be raising the roof. And they are framing some of it already because there's practice breakout spaces. So this coordination and effort is amazing by the contractors. Right, over at Grover Middle School, we were able to open the new addition for this beginning of the school year. And you can see the ladder that they forgot right there on the roof in the middle. I know. But this space is open. Students are actively attending class in these spaces. And again, it's just a real beautiful addition for our kids. At High School North, we have the dance studio underway. And that whole wing you see there in the middle is between two exit points in the auditorium. So we're waiting for the block, but they're actively underway with the dance studio. Both North and South dance studios are on target to be completed at the conclusion of the 21-22 school year. In the program of studies, dance has now officially been inserted, and as students do their course requests, they can now select dance. Based on the student's desire, we'll determine the number of sections, and we do anticipate having a dance teacher split between North and South next school year. Perhaps the students will surprise us and we'll need to hire two, right? But that usually comes at the expense of somewhere else in the staffing. So we'll see what the students' interest is, and that drives our schedule. Wyckoff Elementary School, the plans are underway. We've actually had the planning meetings. This is the renovated entrance that was in the next phase that we would proceed with. We had a groundbreaking with Dr. McDonald and Dr. Wellborn with some students. Dr. Wellborn got to drive some of the equipment. And we have now officially are underway inside the enclosed area. They're pouring the footings. This is the area where the footings are going in. And that ultimately will be the kindergarten, OTPT, music space, and child study team and bathrooms addition that is going in there over at Wyckoff. South, our second most aggressive project and second biggest renovation area. That new science wing is up and is being completed most likely sometime in April. By the time, now I say that, but there's lead time and sometimes inspections. So it could be April, May. I do not expect anyone to actually move in during this active school year. It's just going to be too late in the school year to make it make sense to do all those transitions on top of everything else South has gone through with transitions. But you can see that science wing is absolutely underway. That is the new main office with the yellow to the left and new entranceway. The new main office area to the right is to the right side of the screen there. Again, the main entrance, this will have a security vestibule followed by a new main entrance that separates the school. We're currently, you walk into Commons 1, you almost walk into an active cafeteria in South. When you enter the front entrance, you now have a separation, security vestibule, main entranceway, long hallway, and there are 4 classrooms and a dance studio down this long hallway before you enter the space, which is the current entrance, which would be Commons 1 to the left, and the renovated space, which is the former main office, which is currently the child study team and guidance suite and nursing suite that is now there. The library was gutted, and this was it when it was empty, and now we have filled the stacks, and now it's active with students, and it's all the materials came back. We have a maker space in the front corner of that library that's currently when you're under renovation constantly, you have to keep moving classrooms. So our technology classes are actually taking advantage of this space in the library right now. The playhouse has been redone. Some of you may remember the old wooden seats that you could sit on and pray the seat didn't break. They've all been taken out, renovated, beautiful new facility, new sound, new panels, new lighting, new sound system, a handicap accessible ADA seating in the back, and spaces for wheelchair accessibility, as well as chairs can move out in the back row there. This is the main office. You saw it from the outside. They're actually doing the framing. We are expecting that the main office could be done by March, end of March, early April. We will move folks into the main entrance space as long as the exterior accessibility from the parking lot is open. So it all depends on how that plays out. But you can see they have the framing, the walls have now gone up in this space in the last week. And the room is actually, these are all painted offices right now. This is your new culinary arts lab at High School South. A similar culinary arts still has to be done at High School North. But just a beautiful facility over here at South for our students. Brand new science spaces are being completed. That's in the science wing. That should be in end of April. And you can see the cabinetry in science labs. And now the floors have gone down. You can see the tiling in the ceiling because the above ceiling inspections have not been completed yet. That was the hallways. This is now the hallway, right? They're moving at a great clip. The bathrooms, there will be partitions going in if anyone's worried. Hallway, stairwell. So you get a sense of the tremendous amount of projects that are underway. As all that is completing and underway, we are bidding out. In the spring, we'll be bidding out several library projects. We'll be bidding out some additional renovations at High School North, some fire alarm projects at Wyckoff under state contract, so it doesn't have the same bid responsibilities. But there's still 7 media centers that have to be done, right? So I think it's 7. Wyckoff has some additional renovations. There's some right-of-way work. Whenever you do anything with an entranceway of a school, you have to do some additional ramping or potentially some road work or sidewalk work that's in a right-of-way. Wyckoff HVAC, the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, as I mentioned, the fire alarms, and the culinary space over at North. So we still have at North the culinary and the library. All the security vestibules are done. The bathrooms at Dutch Neck have been 100% renovated. The Wyckoff bathrooms were 100% renovated. So just tremendous amount of work overseen by our building and grounds team, our architect, our construction management, the work of our contractors, Dr. Russo, myself, Dr. McDonald, and just a tremendous team effort with, you forget about, or you can easily forget about all the purchase orders, all the paperwork that has to be processed. Bonnie Cheney is literally managing behind the scenes all the financial documents for all these projects. It's a tremendous amount of work on our business administrative staff. So just a real congratulations to all of them for the work that they're doing. And we'll continue to do, as we still have about $12.5 million of work to finish. Now, that's pretty remarkable considering that was $114,875,000 referendum, in addition of $27 million or so ESEP, Energy Savings Improvement Program, that I didn't share roof pictures of for all the different solar panels and HVAC systems and things in back, but amazing amount of control work and work. Schneider Electric ran point on that project for us. So all in, you're over $140 million worth of construction that's been underway, $130 million approximately underway in the last 2.5 years, in addition to managing the district throughout the pandemic. Tremendously proud of our administrative team and the work that they've done during this time period, the flexibility of our staff and our students and our families. So, any questions from the board? Lloyd.
I know you mentioned a couple of anticipated completion dates. I was just curious with CMS when that's anticipated to be completed.
It depends on which wing or which phase. Science wings should be completed in the next, was it 6 weeks, Dr. Russo? 6 to 8 weeks. The interesting thing about completion dates is you can feel you're close. and then you're at the mercy of inspectors or final punch list items. Sometimes an inspection will be scheduled and one item is hanging you up from having them come in. And we have had to postpone. And so, so you're sort of at the mercy of the completion, but theoretically 6 to 8 weeks at the science wing. And then there is some movement, like we're coordinating spring break movement because there are other culinary arts labs, not culinary arts, like the tech lab area has to be, is being refurbished at CMS. So that requires movement of a lot of staff and materials out to a different location. So there's this dance of space. And then the library, which is going to be the future music room, roof has to be raised, then it has to be completed, then the rest of the interior work. By the end of the summer, early fall, CMS should be close to being buttoned up. Now, there's always, as I said, we're waiting on a lot of items all over the place, but the contractor is working hard to do punch list items on the areas that he's completed to date at CMS. So we should start with some semblance of facility normalcy at CMS in the fall, as long as we can stay on track. And again, the supply chain issues is real. We have seen that firsthand. We have rooftop units for the HVAC system in particular that can be 6-month items. Items like library shelving. You'd think that would not be hard, but to get that, the library shelving can take 4 months, right? From the time that you bid it out. But no, not bid it out, but the time that it gets awarded, then they come to terms on the specifications, and then they put it out to the contractor then goes for it. So it just depends on what the items are that could be. Trying to buy a refrigerator right now, if you went to Lowe's or Home Depot, it can be hard depending on, so trying to find a culinary arts freezer, could have, and we're finding this with our kitchens. We have 4 freezers we're trying to replace in district with some grant monies and other project monies that we have. That's separate and apart from the referendum. Those walk-in boxes can take months to get. So the reality is we're going to definitely be under construction with libraries and Wyckoff. At least Wyckoff, for instance, will be at least 2 more school years, right? Because first you have to do the additions, and then the renovations will follow. The renovations will be another school year. So Wyckoff is looking at most likely 2 more school years. You're not going to do 7 additional libraries at one time. Maximum, our capacity, our bandwidth is going to be probably 4. And that's you're asking a lot from the library staff, the supervisor that oversees that, the buildings, the displacement of all those books. Most of them are going to have to go to storage. And because of the supply chain, it's not like you could just get a library done by like closing it in beginning of late May and going like 2 weeks into September. You used to be able to do that. Now you're at least through December, right? So when you take on a library renovation, you're closing a part of that facility for 6 months easy. So it has a disruption to the space because it's in a smaller elementary school, it's some of the lifeblood of the building, right? And now you're displacing that staff member and all their materials, and they mostly have to go to storage, which is environmental controlled storage unit, because you have to be careful of moisture and humidity or the materials will go bad. Thanks. Sorry, it's a vague, like.
No, my kids are at Wyckoff, and my youngest will be done after 11 years next year. So now, and I just missed it, so I'll have to go back and visit. But thank you for the update, and I'm excited about Wyckoff.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Adderholt. Okay. So next on our agenda are the personnel items. Can I get a motion on item 1 plus the green, yellow, and pink addenda? Pooja and Loy. Chris?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Ovich.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes. Okay, we'll go to the approval of board minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Dana and Graylin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? Do we have any board liaison reports? Any new business? Can we now go to the second opportunity for public comments? The board invites comments from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes. Do you have any comments? Great. Hearing none, we will need to return to closed executive session to complete discussion of our closed session topics. So I will need to read the statement. So whereas the Open Public Meetings Act authorizes boards of education to meet in executive session under certain circumstances, whereas the Open Public Meetings Act requires the board to adopt a resolution at a public meeting to go into private session, now therefore be it resolved by the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District Board of Education that it is necessary to meet in executive session to discuss the items listed in our agenda. Be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board, which need not remain confidential, will be made public as soon as feasible. The minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Be it further resolved that the board will not need to return to open session to conduct business at the conclusion of the executive session. So can I get a motion to adjourn to closed session? Liz and Shweta. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're adjourned to closed session. Thank you, everyone.